All right, and good afternoon, and welcome to the Davies Use Case webinar being presented by Duke Health on optical character recognition. This is a Davies award-winning use case for the value of health IT. My name is Arnold Simmons. I'm the Manager of Quality and Patient Safety Initiatives at HIMSS, and it is my pleasure to moderate this presentation. Core to the HIMSS mission is promoting the use of health information and technology to improve the quality of healthcare delivery. HIMSS promotes and advocates the integration of clinical decision support and best practice guidance, access to clinical data to analyze progress, and IT-enabled patient safety tools for all healthcare organizations, clinicians, and community members as vehicles for improving patient outcomes. The HIMSS Nicholas E. Davies Award of Excellence is the pinnacle of HIMSS Value Recognition Program. The Davies Award recognizes outstanding achievement of organizations from around the world who have utilized information and technology to improve patient outcomes and value. The Davies award-winning use cases have been peer-reviewed to validate sustainable, improved patient and business outcomes resulting from health information and technology-enabled care delivery. So it's my pleasure to welcome our speakers from Duke Health. And let me pause this for a second and go.
Hello, thank you for joining our session today. Our presentation is case study number 2, Transplant Labs Discrete Data Capture with Optical Character Recognition. My name is Darla Phillips. I'm the Clinical Operations Director at the Duke Transplant Center. I was involved as a clinical leader for the implementation of the electronic support for the Duke Transplant Center, which implemented MaestroCare in 2013. I have a background in clinical care and clinical education for transplantation, as well as for being a clinical coordinator.
My name is Collins Clarkson, and I provide application support.
And my name is Michael Watson. I'm also a DHCS application analyst, and our key role in this project is to follow the document from the time that it's faxed until the time that it reaches the EHR.
Hi, my name is Joy Larney, and I'm one of the CNEX analysts on the ambulatory MaestroCare team. During the implementation of OCR for the Transplant Center, I collaborated with operational and support teams to design workflow and build. Prior to taking an analyst position, I was the instructional designer for PHENIX.
Case study number 2 is focused on the management of external lab results. Nationally, there are a large number of transplants every year, and each patient needs to have close follow-up with labs based on the Transplant Center's protocol. The graph here on the left demonstrates the waiting list as well as the transplants and the number of donors that we've had since 1991. And you can see that the number on the waiting list continues to rise annually. The graph on the right is the number of transplants that were performed in 2017 by organ. Clearly, we have a large number of kidneys, and we have fewer livers, hearts, and lungs. But overall, this trend does continue to increase, but not as quickly as the wait list does. Our problem was identified that we needed to streamline and expedite the process of entering external lab results into MaestroCare, which is our electronic health record. We found an opportunity to use optical character recognition technology to decrease the burden of capturing this information electronically. The Duke Transplant Center is a multi-organ specialty transplant center. We have heart, lung, heart-lung, liver, kidney, pancreas, kidney-pancreas, intestine, and vascular composite allografts. And that's the extremity transplant. We have the largest thoracic transplant program in the country in volume, and our multi-organ transplants are very common. And these might be multi-organs that are not included, such as liver and heart together, or heart or liver and lung together. Patients are seen pre-transplant and post-transplant and require variable testing, including laboratory studies, to monitor end organ function. We have a large number of patients that we monitor, 3,222 post-transplant patients at the time of the presentation, and over 775 pre-transplant patients. When we looked at the problem of the Duke Transplant Center, increasing our volume over time demonstrated that we would also have increased number of patients who needed follow-up, and therefore we would need to have a better way to be able to manage our labs. You can see from the all organ row on the very top, from 2012 we increased from 321 to 461 in 2017. And our wait list is currently at 781 patients. Several of these patients may require labs on the wait list in order to stay active. And for the post-transplant patients, they will have labs done at least 12 times in the first year, and those are typically done at home and faxed into our organization for us to care for the patients. What we recognized is that this is a high volume, and the clinical staff was busy with more patients in clinic, and they had a very high transplant volume. They needed a way to have their data accessible and to do their work anywhere, not just in the office. There was monotony cited by the administrative staff stating frustration of entering lab values all day long with little variation in their current role. We also identified that data errors could not be easily identified, as the source document was a paper document which was discarded after the nurse reviewed it. So we identified an application to handle the inefficiencies due to inoperabilities encumbered in the healthcare IT system, and these inefficiencies led us to find an innovative solution.
So what is optical character recognition technology? This is a software application that accurately captures over 80% of fax, non-discrete clinical laboratory data as discrete data elements. The medical secretary utilizes the program and is able to edit and add data. This intelligent data extraction empowers faster analysis and increased accessibility of lab results across the enterprise. OCR data capture process is all done electronically, which reduces errors and the redundancy inherent in paper-based workflows. As you can see on the next slide, we have many stakeholders that provide support to our OCR application. A few of these are the MaestroCare ambulatory team, our interface team, our database team, our application analysts, and our transplant staff.
So part of the initial design phase was for the Duke analyst to gain a strong understanding of the workflow being used in the transplant department. What we found during our discovery period was that it took the analyst an average of just over 6 minutes to manually enter these lab results. We revisited the same workflow post-implementation and discovered that the analysts were able to result the same lab results 25% quicker than they were pre-implementation. These savings allowed the analyst to focus on other responsibilities outside of data entry.
In order for the external lab results to be available in the electronic health record as discrete values, along with the scanned document, there are steps that have to be completed in the OCR workflow as well as the MaestroCare workflow. In the MaestroCare workflow, I would like to point out that an external lab order is entered into MaestroCare and released to the OCR system. This enables the discrete results to be in the scanned document to be linked to the external lab order. To improve efficiency, when the transplant medical secretaries open the transcribed order encounter, we set the default activity to order review. Here, they can quickly see if an external order is available to be released. If an external lab order needs to be entered, An external preference list was built and linked to the transplant department. Once the external lab order is entered, it is then released to the OCR system. Displayed are screenshots taken during the verification process. On the right is the source document, and on the left, the highlighted areas represent information that has been extracted from the source document after OCR has run. The transplant medical secretaries verify the information that has been extracted is accurate. If any corrections are needed, the transplant medical secretaries make the necessary corrections and then commit the document. The discrete lab results along with the scanned document are then available in the electronic health record attached to the external lab order. Next, we will hear from a transplant coordinator, Judy Smith, talking about OCR.
Hi, my name is Judy Smith, and I'm one of the postdoc kidney transplant coordinators here at the Duke Transplant Center. I was one of the original people who helped do the verification when we started using LabDE. I found it to be most helpful, particularly because my life prior to LabDE resulted in me coming back to the office from the clinic, finding a stack about 3 inches high worth of lab results, some of which would be complete, some of which would be incomplete, just depending on how well the fax machine was working and how well the people who were taking the faxes off the machine were sorting those faxes. So it was particularly difficult if you were responsible for patient care, figuring out what was critical, did you have what you needed to make decisions about these patients, and how could you get what you did not have. LabDE has made this much easier for us. It allows all of the source documentation for the labs to be in one place, both for the verification of the labs and then afterwards, when we review them with the physician, if they have questions about the lab, they can actually click on the link and look at the result themselves. We can quickly look at, was this done at the same laboratory? Was this done at a different laboratory? Is that something we need to be concerned about? It has helped us ensure better accuracy with our patient care and better timeliness in that delivery of care. We have a lot fewer results. We spend a lot less time on the phone trying to get lab results. After hours, we can actually go into our fax server and we can pull up labs that were not available during work hours. We can review those labs, speak to the...
Oops.
Hi, my name is Judy Smith, and I'm one of the postdoc transplant coordinators here at the Duke Transplant Center. I was one of the original people who helped do the verification when we started using LabDE. I found it to be most helpful, particularly because my life prior to LabDE resulted in me coming back to the office from the clinic, finding a stack about 3 inches high worth of lab results, some of which would be complete, some of which would be incomplete, just depending on how well the fax machine was working and how well the people who were taking the faxes off the machine were sorting those faxes. So it was particularly difficult if you were responsible for patient care, figuring out what was critical, did you have what you needed to make decisions about these patients, and how could you get what you did not have. LabDE has made this much easier for us. It allows all of the source documentation for the labs to be in one place, both for the verification of the labs and then afterwards, when we review them with the physician, if they have questions about the lab, they can actually click on the link and look at the result themselves. We can quickly look at, was this done at the same laboratory? Was this done at a different laboratory? Is that something we need to be concerned about? It has helped us ensure better accuracy with our patient care and better timeliness in that delivery of care. We have a lot fewer results. We spend a lot less time on the phone trying to get lab results. After hours, we can actually go into our fax server and we can pull up labs that were not available during work hours. We can review those labs, speak to the physicians on call, and make changes for the patient, which delays treatment if we have to wait until the following Monday to do those things. Now we can do that from home, from the clinic, the physicians themselves. We can send them a result and they can see it as well. I think it leads to better patient satisfaction. I know it leads to a better sense of I'm doing all I can do to help this patient, and I'm not just waiting until the lab comes in. I'm being proactive about the lab. It is a great check of accuracy for our labs. Our medical secretary verifies the labs when she enters them. Then the nurse coordinator verifies the labs when she looks at them and sends a result note to the physician. And then if the physician has a question about the lab, he can actually go in and verify it himself. It allows us to work from clinic. It allows us to work from home. It allows us to cover each other because there's no paperwork that is sitting on my desk in the office that requires me being present or somebody actually entering my office to do a verification and make a change for a medication or order an antibiotic or do all of those small things that we do that require pieces of information. I think LabDE has helped our lives tremendously, but most importantly, it certainly has improved outcomes for our patients and our patient satisfaction.
Okay.
So the value of the optical character recognition had several implementation benefits. First, the source document is available within the medical record via a link. The user just has to click on the link and can open the source document to be able to review them as needed. The external results are rapidly reviewed to determine clinical intervention. As Judy mentioned, she can see labs if she's over in the clinic, or she can see labs if she's at home, and she can electronically route those to the provider in order to have an action made sooner rather than later. This allows the clinical users to be more efficient in their role. I have often heard coordinators saying that it makes everything go so quickly that they can get their responses back from the physicians. There's an increased number of labs available as a discrete result for trending and reporting. We're utilizing lab results out of our universe for trending and reporting and identifying if labs are too low or too high as necessary. There's a delay of labs sent to the transplant coordinator that is very much reduced. The volume of the lab documents and the fax volume are now available for workload assessment. We're maintaining a weekly report of all the volumes of labs that come into the OCR system, and we can recognize if particular users are having difficulty, and we would be able to re-educate them as necessary. We've also implemented a QA process to identify common errors for re-education or user-specific coaching. When we looked at the lab volumes, since we started the project around July of 2016, looking just at the volumes, you can see that we went from around 5,500 all the way up to nearly 8,000 in the first quarter of 2018. That's a 32% increase of our labs. And so when we talked about our LabDE entry taking 4 minutes and 38 seconds, and the enter-edit results previously took 6 minutes and 10 seconds, we had a savings of 1.32 minutes. And that is a lot of time, about 25% of the time. The other end value that we looked at was how many of the labs were being entered during the business day. And we looked at the end of business work volume was remaining as the metric. So currently at 4:30, initially when we started doing this, we were having a report done at midnight, and we changed our report timing somewhere around the beginning of quarter 3 to be 4:35 p.m. and that 4:30 p.m. And that report helped drive the number of labs that were remaining to be put into the system to under 10, because the managers began sharing that information with the medical secretaries, who responded by saying, we don't want to have any labs left if necessary. So they now have less than 10 available to be reviewed, but they're not reviewed until the following day. Next. The future of OCR at Duke Health includes adding new features to our system to enhance the user experience. One of the features we've done is that if you have faxes on 2 different patients, you can now separate those faxes utilizing just a keying system into 2 discrete faxes. And then we're also expanding this to other Duke clinical programs, including the reference labs performed at Duke Hospital. Examples of those labs include the living donor panel and the newborn screening. We have a list of several departments who do take labs from outside, and they would like to utilize the system, and we're currently working on a system-wide implementation plan. Happy to share more information at the Duke Transplant Center, and then any information about our organ procurement transplant network is available as well. And we thank you all for your time and your attention today. We do appreciate that.
Okay. Thank you, and thank you all for your time today. I just, before we end our call, I want to remind folks where to find other Davies use case webinars for their education, and that information can be found at hims.org/Davies. That's hims.org/Davies. And this concludes our recording. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arnold. Arnold, this is Terry. I just want to let you know that we're working to get the other 2 sessions scheduled. It's difficult